And now, let's welcome our guest. Nexterday is the brand new CD by Ric Ocasek. If you have heard it, you're going to stick around. I know you will. If you've not heard it, you need to stick around. We'll play some songs from it and also some classics by the Cars as Rockline welcomes Ric Ocasek. Welcome back to Rockline.
Thank you. Good to be back.
Many years, but we're rectifying the situation as we speak. It's great to have you back on the show. Been a while since you've given us some new music, too, huh, Rick?
Yeah, it took a little bit of time between this record and the last one because I was pretty much producing a lot of albums and things like that and doing some other things that one might do besides, you know, make a record. And so it took me a little time to get back to it, but here we are.
You have produced so many bands. I just made a short list. Bad Religion, Weezer, Suicide, Iggy Pop, Guided by Voices, Bad Brains. Then there's Romeo Void, there's Hole, there's No Doubt, there's Black 47. Include Johnny Bravo, Jonathan Richman, Martin Rev, D-Generation, Possum Dixon, Not a Surf. Am I leaving anybody out? Probably.
That's maybe some, but I'll tell you, that's a lot. Yeah, you're right.
It's a whole lot.
Yeah.
That's more than a little.
I didn't realize that.
You played
Time goes quickly.
You played almost everything on the CD, didn't you?
Yeah, I did on this record. I did.
Why did you choose to do it that way, and why did you invite the guests that are on the album to participate?
Well, I chose to do it this way because I wanted to, you know, have the songs that were on there. I wanted them to be at the point of inspiration. I kind of wanted to make it simplistic and one-sided and a bit selfish in that sense. I didn't want to go into the studio and re-record all the songs and rehearse a band and do all those things. I was really looking for that sort of personal, you know, oneness sort of thing on this. It felt like a personal record, so I kept it that way.
And go ahead.
Some of the guests I had, I had a drummer, Rob Johannes, play on 2 tracks, I think, drums. Greg Hawkes played on 1 or 2 tracks, and Daryl Jennifer from the Bad Brains played on 1 of the tracks. But other than that, we did the rest.
Other than that, it's you. Boy, it really is a solo album. And you wrote about 30 songs or so going in?
Yeah. I usually write quite a bit of songs. I usually overwrite. I write until I can't think of anything else to write. And then, pick my favorites and then kind of like record those.
Are these 11 all favorites of yours?
They were my favorites out of the 30. I suppose they were. You know, when I sequenced them together, those were the ones that stood out that I should put on the record, either because of their lyrics or because I liked the song.
How important is sequencing? When you chose these 11 songs and you sat down and you said, I'm going to put them on an album, I'm going to start with this one, how important is that to you, and what kind of time consumption is involved in that?
Sequencing is not too difficult once you know the songs you want to use. It's really just, it's funny, I still think of, even though we're working with CDs these days, I always think of it as an album. I always think side 1, side 2. So if there's like 11 songs, I'll think of the first 6 for the first side, and I'm still in that habit. However, it's, it depends. It's kind of what runs into the next song that's, comparable, and that's really basically it. You can sort of tell what fits with what, and what the flow should kind of be.
So on this CD, on Nexterday, does side 1 end with Silver, or does it end with Come On? Where's the line of demarcation here?
Is it 11 songs?
It's 11 songs.
I think the first half is stops in the middle of Silver, and then continues on to the next side.
You got to turn it over. I love that. What happened to the other songs? I would assume that there were some out of that batch of 30 that were pretty good and might find the light of day somewhere else. Is that the case?
Yeah, I usually stick those in a drawer until the next record, and but usually when I do a new record, I never open the drawer. So there's a whole lot of songs back there.
Well, you're not going to keep them there for 8 years this time again, are you?
No, I can't. I should do quicker records, I think.
Well, we certainly hope so, but we're happy with the one you've just given us. Nexterday is the name of the album. A chance for you to talk with Ric Ocasek tonight on Rockline, toll-free at 1-800-344-ROCK. This is the first single from the album. It's called Bottom Dollar. And welcome back to Rockline, letting the good times roll with Ric Ocasek tonight. And your calls at 1-800-344-ROCK. Our first caller is Kirk from Myrtle Beach, Florida. Hi, Kirk.
Yeah, hey. Let me ask you, who came up with the album covers for the Cars LPs, and who was the lady on them?
Well, our drummer, David Robinson, came up with all the concepts for all those covers. The girl that was on the first album cover, we didn't meet until about 6 years after we had really done the first album. I don't even know her name. So we don't know her name. She's the mystery girl behind the steering wheel. But it was David who designed them and pretty much came up with the, concept of all the covers, and then he would work with the art department and sort of get it into its final stage.
Now, you have a graphic artistic side. Was it just kind of the band saying, David, you're the guy for this, go for it, and letting him do it?
Well, it was also because David originally showed interest in doing that. He had a lot of material, especially for the first cover. He was very design-oriented, and he loved doing that, and no better person than him to do it. I mean, it wasn't sort of a struggle to see who would do it. It was kind of, I think we all had confidence that David would do it.
Well, they're striking, memorable covers. I mean, every one of them. And of course, the Vargas cover is just over the top fantastic.
He's still doing good artwork, and he does wonderful artwork.
Well, I know he's in the Boston area, You never know who's listening to Rockline. We'll take a call from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Joe, you're on with Ric Ocasek.
Hey, Rick, great to talk to you, and it was great seeing you on your tour in Troublizing.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, unfortunately, I wasn't able to see you in this tour, but if any other dates, I'll try to.
Well, thanks.
Two-part question, Rick. About your DVD with the Cars Unlocked, just any updates on maybe when it may be released and what it would contain, and also, like, if there's any chance of a Cars DVD video on in the project.
Right. Well, the Cars Unlocked video is a DVD, I should say, is I assume it's going to be out like after the first of the year, so it'll be out in 2005. It's got about 25 songs on it. They're all live. They're recorded in clubs and in big concert arenas, whatever. There's a lot of there's a lot of footage from when we got our first camera. There's a lot of sort of comical things. I suppose they're comical. I mean, they're comical to us, but it's a sort of a look at the Cars that I don't think anyone's ever seen, and it's sort of a great representation of what the Cars were like during those times. And better than anything I've seen, actually, to date, that's on DVD.
I want to see the live stuff. I can't wait to see that. And I assume there's all kinds of behind-the-scenes stuff that you were alluding to with the first camera. That must be fun.
Yeah, it is. It's just pretty darn good.
The other part of what Joe asked was possibly a DVD of just the videos. How many videos did the Cars do over the years? Do you have any idea? I mean, you did some great ones.
We did do some really good ones, and just ballparking it, I would assume we probably did 15 or 20 videos. I don't see any reason why that shouldn't be on DVD. There was never really a compilation of videos on DVD. It probably could be done if one just sort of went to the appropriate company and said, hey, why don't we do that?
I bet you Joe in Pittsburgh would buy a copy of it. Joe, thanks for being on the show tonight. We'll talk to Tim in Wheeling, West Virginia. Welcome to Rockline. I got Ric Ocasek for you.
Hi, Rick.
Hi, how are you?
Okay, two questions for you real quick. I wanted to ask, first of all, what do you think of the song Just What I Needed being used for a Circuit City commercial, which they're showing? And secondly, what is your fondest memory of Benjamin Orr?
Well, I'll start with the Benjamin Orr part. I had known Ben since I was about 22 years old, and we were in every band that I ever had. I have a very odd memory of him, besides him being sort of, my right-hand closest friend. I remember once being in Columbus, Ohio, and there was a circus in town at Ohio State University. And I shouldn't say this on the air, but him and I were tripping. And we just climbed underneath a tent it was late at night and the circus was closed, and we saw some elephants in there. But there was a guy with a big stick beating the elephants. And Ben and I, since we were tripping out, we just were crying. We were crying as we saw this elephant getting beaten. And I just, I have to flash on that. I don't know why. It's just like we were just sort of sitting in the corner crying over this elephant getting beaten. So there's a strange memory for you.
Well, it's nice to know you have that sensitive side about you. Yeah.
You were looking for it.
And you shouldn't say that him and I were tripping. You should say he and I were tripping.
Well, that's true, if I wanted to be literal. But, and the second question I've seen
was
to elude me. And
Circuit City and Just What I Needed?
Oh, Circuit City, well, did I know? Of course I knew about it because they asked if they can use that for a commercial. And I would say that I just, bent to it and did it. And that's all I can really say about that.
Something is rattling around in my head from a previous Rockline with you many years ago that when Just What I Needed was first released on a 45 RPM vinyl single, that the original pressing was one channel only. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's true. The actual single that was being played on radio was just half the song. It's the one that was the hit. It was half a track. It was they shipped out inferior, records. It was like one side, so they played it in mono, and it sort of sounded pretty good, but it wasn't the full take.
Half a song, but a whole hit. And welcome back to Rockline. It's an evening with Ric Ocasek, and your calls at 1-800-344-ROCK in BC. Bob Coburn. RocklineRadio.com will give you an update as to who's coming up. Next week, a special encore Rockline with Def Leppard. The following week, we are back live with Deep Purple. And then the night before Thanksgiving is a traditional night off for Rockline, and we will give you a U2 classic encore, a compilation of a couple of shows they've done with us in the past. So that should be a lot of fun. Time for the encore question. It's brought to you by Nicorette. A revolution in quitting smoking has arrived. Nicorette, fresh mint. Start chewing and start quitting. Time for the encore question left by one Jackson Brown.
Hey, Rick, this is Jackson Brown. Hey, you're such a monster in the studio. Do you find it as fulfilling or as interesting to play live? And if so, are you going to do more live gigs?
My answer to that question is I find it more adventurous and fun to actually be in the studio making records, and live would probably be my second choice. So I'd have to say that I won't be playing as much live as I will be in the studio, Jackson.
Now, you did, 3 shows, I think? I think you did Conan O'Brien?
And I'm pretty tired from that, too.
Rick needs a nap, ladies and gentlemen.
I did a few clubs. I just did a few shows. I did a CBGB's benefit. I actually played in Boston because it was my hometown. And I did some television appearances, but that was quite fun.
But that's going to be it for Nexterday?
I would think so. That's quite a lot of work.
Come on, Rick. Come on. We want to see you play live again.
I might add one. No, we'll see. I'll see what goes on.
All right. Well, we won't rule it out. RicOcasek.com will keep you up to date, but I'm getting the don't hold your breath feeling right now. Next caller in Rockline at 1-800-344-ROCK is Rob from Dayton, Ohio. Rob, welcome.
Hi, it's great to talk to you, Rick and Bob.
Hi, Rob.
I have a quick question for you, Rick. I really like the Door to Door album, and I was wondering, the sounds that you got out of that, was that the first album that you had ever produced?
No, actually it was not at all. I probably have been producing records since around 1980, and I had quite a few records, under my belt from that. But I think it was producing that record, though, was more like the band producing the record. It's just that we didn't have like an outside producer for that record. I think that was sort of a record that we all pitched in on. So I would call it sort of a band-produced album.
As someone, and I mentioned quite a few of the bands earlier in the show, who's produced so many artists, what producers influenced you the most? I know Roy Thomas Baker and Mutt Lange must have had an effect on you.
Well, certainly Roy did, just in his approach to recording, his sort of freedom and I probably couldn't be in as good of a mood as Roy is, but Roy was always in a wonderful mood, and an eccentric quality to him, but he always kept things moving quickly. Very opposite of Mutt Lange, who dwelled on things for eons of time and tried to perfect every little note. I guess both ways worked pretty well. Other producers, in the beginning, I used to like Tony Visconti. I used to like John Cale. I guess I didn't really have a list of big favorites, but I paid attention to those two particularly.
Visconti, to me, and especially his work with Bowie, it always came out seemingly effortless. You knew that a lot of effort was being put into it, and a lot of attention to detail and everything, but it sounded so easy to listen to and so natural and organic.
Yeah, for its time, it was pretty interesting. It was very good. But there's a lot of great producers.
Rob, thanks for joining us tonight on Rockline. Thanks for the call. Eddie's in Rocky Point, New York, and now you're in Rockline with Ric Ocasek.
Hey, how you doing, guys?
Good.
How are you?
My question for Rick is, I want to know what happened concerning the A&R job he had at Elektra. What were his expectations going in, and what happened as a result of his, doing that?
Because I'm not there anymore. It's funny, my expectations going in were that I was always a fan of Elektra Records, even from the late 60s. They seemed to have all the great creative bands, The Doors and Love and Incredible String Band and Phil Oakes and all kinds of great innovative music. And then, of course, the Cars were on Elektra at a later time, so I always felt pretty home there. I thought when I went in that I would be able to sort of sign relatively adventurous music. Sometimes I was naive enough to think that I could sign bands that were totally unknown. I found out quickly that that wasn't the scheme of things at a major label. And it took me even though I presented it, and I have to say that Sylvia Rohn, who was president of Elektra at that point, was pretty sympathetic and did, meet all the artists that I did bring in, but obviously I don't think too many of them were ready for prime time. So I decided to leave.
It's fair to say that you were looking for something different than what they wanted?
Yeah, well, it wasn't so much that as maybe that I personally didn't understand, the mechanism of a major label. The way that, the overhead situation, all the sort of business part of it. I was really going in under the creative end of things, and the creative side of it was there to help find bands, and also to produce. But, of course, the bands I was finding were more things that I guess I liked, and maybe my tastes were a tad eccentric for, a major label.
You're right, though. Those early days of Elektra, Clear Light, I think Paul Butterfield was on Elektra. They had just a roster that was unbelievable, really creative, and at the time, even at that time, very adventurous, I think.
Oh, yeah.
But a lot of those bands took off, certainly the Doors.
Yeah, because they were true artists, and they last.
Funny how that works, isn't it, Eddie? Thanks for being on with us tonight. Alex is in Stillwater, Oklahoma, and we had Stillwater to take his call. Hi, Alex.
Hi. My question was, what was the inspiration behind Candio?
The song or the album itself?
The song. The
song? Okay.
It's hard for me to remember. It's a long time ago that was written. I kind of liked. I remember just kind of just liking the word Candio. I don't know where it came from. Maybe it's because I like candy. It's just one of those kinds of songs that doesn't have much of a sort of story or message, but it was a neat up rock song, and that's really just, to me, it was just sort of a pop song, that I kind of just probably wrote relatively quickly.
You sang it like you were enamored with the way that it sounded.
Actually, Benjamin sang Candy.
Oh, Benjamin sang it. Oh, really? Well, then he tapped into whatever you were thinking, because there's a certain affectation to the way that song was sung. that sounds great. And of course, the entire album with Let's Go, the Vargas cover that we talked about, just a great piece of work. We're going to play the song that begins your brand new CD, Nexterday, which is the first in 8 years from Ric Ocasek. Tell us about the song Crackpot.
Crackpot? That's my little autobiographical song there. I opened the record with the way I felt, crackpot.
That's how you felt about yourself at the time you were?
No. I mean, it's a kind of a funny word. My grandmother used to say, that guy's a crackpot. Those people are crackpots. So I don't know. Maybe it just sort of flew out of my mouth. But that song, Crackpot, is a little comic search of my psyche there. Yeah.
The name of the song is Crackpot off the brand new CD Nexterday by Ric Ocasek, his first in 8 years. Don't do that to us again. We're taking your calls right now. Toll free at 1-800-344-ROCK. That's 7625 at the end. Rick is in Bayonne, New Jersey. Rick, you're on Rockline.
How you doing, Rick?
Good, pretty good.
My question is, I have a friend of mine that said that he recorded you back in the day at RPM Studios in Manhattan, Dominic Mader. And I was just wondering, curious, why you guys chose to record in Manhattan at the time when you guys were originally from Boston, and how much of an input did Dominic have on your recording?
I sort of remember the name Dominic. Maybe it was for a particular, reason that I'm sure we didn't record a full album there. I think we only recorded one. Actually, I don't know. Oh, we recorded one full album. I think it was Panorama in New York. But that was at a different studio. But I do remember the name Dominic, so I'm actually curious to what song it might have been. But we probably had a great time with him, I can tell you that.
And why New York? Just the energy and the vibrance of the city?
Well, yeah, it's pretty close to Boston as well. And, we tried to record every record in a different place. And we did actually manage to do that. I don't think we ever recorded it, in the same place twice for the albums. First album was London, then it was L.A., and then New York, and fourth one was in Boston, and then we went back to London at a different studio for Heartbeat City, and we recorded Electric Lady for Door to Door. So back and forth, just because for variety, for environmental change, and
just to mix it up and tap into the energy wherever you were. Mm-hmm. I noticed for Nexterday, a lot of it was done at One Take Studio. Is that yours?
Yeah, it is.
So that's a short commute for you in that one, then, huh?
Oh, yeah, it's an easy commute.
And you did some.
You have to do everything in one take. That's the only problem.
And you did some at Electric Lady down Village Way in New York City.
I did a couple of drum tracks there. That is my favorite recording studio in New York. Most of the things I produce, I end up going to Electric Lady to do. This is my favorite. It's Jimi Hendrix's old studio. It's in the West Village. It's on street level and here in New York. And, bands can go out and get pizza.
We've done some Rocklines there with bands playing live, and it still sounds great. It's a pretty funky studio, no doubt about that, but, funky's got nothing to do with sound.
No, the sound's always been good there.
Sound's always been good, absolutely. Yeah. Next caller is Bill in Oklahoma City. Bill, you're on Rockline with Ric Ocasek.
Hello, Rick. How are you?
Hi, Bill. Fine.
I have always sensed kind of a certain detachment in your music and your lyrics. My question is, have you ever been tempted to just bare your soul, to be overtly political?
Sometimes I feel like being political, especially when I look at the political situation these days. I don't know that. I think some people do political things better. I don't know. I've thought about. I've even thought about doing a whole album that might be that way, but then I'm starting to preach, and I don't know that I want to be a preacher. So, I mean, preaching, politics. I certainly vaguely pay attention to it, but I don't know. Sometimes I think, I'm really just a pop writer, and I shouldn't sort of. I do write, political songs in a sense of about relationships and people and things like that, but nothing overtly. I also think political songs are like pop songs because whatever's going on in the world politically today, in 2 weeks will change into something else, just like pop music does in pop culture.
Is it difficult to separate the political climate of any given time from what you do write? I mean, even though it may not be overt, I would think some of it would seep in there somehow.
It seeps. It definitely seeps in. It has a lot to do with your probably mood. Yeah, I'm sure it seeps in.
A good friend of mine once said to me, it's okay to preach as long as you don't let them see the pulpit.
Yeah.
Just kind of be cool about it, stand in the background, and let it go on its own. I have no idea what your politics are. I would imagine many of the listeners to Rockline right now have no idea what your politics are. Would we be surprised if you did a political album as to what your stance is? Or like most artists, do you have mostly left-leaning?
I'm a peace and love guy, I guess we won't get into politics, but I don't know if they would be surprised, it's almost like complaining. I don't know that I want to complain. I like to complain. I like to help complain. If people want to get together and complain together, I don't want to be the only complainer.
Let's have a group complaining session. It always works better that way.
It does work that way. That's how we stopped Vietnam.
Well, you're right. That is how we stopped Vietnam. And, well, I'm not going to get political either. We'll just draw the line right there.
We're not going to stop this one.
We're going to play Let's Go. Is there any mystery behind this song, or is this just a fun rock and roll song that you wrote?
There's no mystery behind Let's Go. It's Let's Go, I like the nightlife, baby.
Can't beat that. Let's go on Rockline. Let's go. Love that nightlife, baby. That's the Cars. Candio. Ric Ocasek, our guest tonight on Rockline, and you can speak with him right now toll-free at 1-800-344-ROCK. That's 1-800-344-7625. Mark called that number. He's in Hershey, Pennsylvania. Welcome to the show, Mark.
Hi, Rick and Bob. How you guys doing?
Good, Mark. Thanks.
Pretty good. How are you?
Good. Hey, Rick, my question was, what are your thoughts about how your songs have been used in different movies? We were talking about, for example, Moving in Stereo and Fast Times at Ridgemont High, and different songs have been used in different movies.
Yeah, well, that's my favorite. That scene wasn't too bad. I always like it when songs can be in a movie. I mean, it's nice. It adds something to the movie. I always liked it when people asked if they could use songs in movies. I would even embark on maybe scoring a movie at some point. But so that's a neat way to go. I like it when songs are in movies. It sort of depicts a time, and it kind of adds a little ambiance to that.
Songs complete movies, just plain and simple. They're married, they go down the aisle together, they're hand in hand, all of that stuff. And that was a great moment in Fast Times at Ridgemont High. Yeah. Cameron Crowe's done some great films over the years, and that certainly ranks right up there toward the top. You can shaking it up with Ric Ocasek tonight on Rockline and Bob Coburn. You can speak to Rick toll-free at 1-800-344-ROCK. And our next caller is in Newark, Ohio. And Bill, welcome to Rockline.
Yes, good evening.
How you doing?
I'm doing good, thank you.
Good, that's good.
I have a question for Rick.
Mm-hmm.
But first I'd like to congratulate him on his career. I'm not a real big Cars fan. I do like the music. I'm sort of a wannabe musician myself, and I really admire what he's done. Rick, I'd like to know, who's the guest musicians there on your new album?
Well, on the new album, I have, Greg Hawkes, who was a member of the Cars. He played on 2 songs, I believe. I had a friend of mine from a band called Brand Van 3000, a Canadian band, who played drums on 2 songs, Rob Johannes. And Daryl Jennifer played bass on the last song on the record. He's a bass player from the Bad Brains. I brought them in for variety.
Just to shake it up a little bit. You got to do that sometimes. Do you maintain relationships with some or many, as the case may be, of the bands that you produced?
Oh, yeah, I think I do. Yeah, I certainly do. We trade letters, books, music, certainly. Some more than others. Depends on, just depends. I don't know on what, but it depends on something. Depends on, whether they're sort of close or far or on tour or not, or taking a break or doing a new record, or, but there's always contact.
I read something, and I can only paraphrase, and then you can set me straight here, that you said about the guys in Weezer, that essentially you walked in a room, and there's some nerdy kind of guys, and they plugged in and blew you against the wall with electricity.
Yeah.
Is that a reasonable approximation of what you said?
Yeah, that's pretty much the way it was. I, received demo tapes from them and heard them and loved those. I went to Los Angeles to meet them. I had no idea what they were going to look like or sound like. And I went to a rehearsal hall, place that was about as big as a kitchen. And they just whacked it up to 11 and played the songs. And I was pressed like those ads, for those speakers where everything goes back,
Oh, yeah, there were rants, I believe. Yeah,
but it was a wonderful experience, I have to say.
And you got to work with Bad Religion, which is a band that I really enjoy. My son's a guitar player, and we went to see them not long ago, probably about 9 months ago or so, and they were just excellent. We went to see Rise Against and Bad Religion, and they've still got it. The most recent album's outstanding. What work did you do with those guys, out of curiosity?
I did an album with them called The Gray Race. The Gray Race album. That's the one I did, and we had a great time doing that record. We did that in New York, too, at Electric Lady. They were extremely tight, obviously, because they are. And they're, they're a little political, too.
Yeah, but, they're a little political, you might say.
Singing-wise, it was phenomenal. Greg was, phenomenal.
He's also outstanding live. He's really captivating. You can't take your eyes off of him. Bill, thanks for joining us tonight. New York City, Electric Lady. Joe's in New York City. Now you're in Rockline. Hey, Joe.
Hey, how you doing? Rick, I'm a big fan of your pop music. I just wanted to ask you a question. I want to know, could you describe the Boston music scene sort of in the mid-'70s when the Cars were forming? We know David Robinson, I guess, was with the Modern Lovers. Did you all know each other from that scene? Were you all friends at some point? Did you all play in bands together? How did it all form?
We did, like any, city that you live in, if you play music, you kind of know all the other bands that are playing music in your city. It was an inspirational time in this, 77, 76, 70, all those late 70s and early 80s. There seemed to be a huge cropping of new bands. There was places to play. It was a college town. There was a lot of... And for some reason, radio was pretty, sort of open to letting people just even mail in tapes, and they'll play them if they like it, that kind of thing. It was fun in Boston at that time, and it seemed like you really didn't need to go anywhere else. You could sort of, there was Berklee School of Music. I did know everybody that was in the Cars, prior to the Cars. David was the last member to join. He was in a band called, he wasn't the Modern Lovers, but he was in a band called DMZ at that point. And he was the last member to join, and that's when we actually changed the name to the Cars, because that's the name David thought of. So, that was the finale of that. But yeah, we knew each other. Everybody knew each other.
Are you plugged into the newer stuff? And the reason I ask you that is because there's a whole new Boston slash Massachusetts thing that's happening right now with Stained and Godsmack and Shadows Fall and Killswitch Engage and a much heavier sound. Are you plugged into the modern stuff, or are you still a classic fan?
No, I'm actually, because I produce so many indie bands, I'm pretty into things like... Devendra Banhart and, Hong Kong, and really sort of little baby bands. To me, that's where the future of music really is.
Tell us about your song from Nexterday, Heard About You. We're about to play that.
It's probably the most electronic one on there. You know me, I don't really have stories for songs, and if I did, I wouldn't tell them anyway, because I feel like people need to decipher out of a song what they want to decipher. But I really like I really like the arrangement of it and the kind of keyboard break and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I like this one, too. Heard About You, Ric Ocasek. Nexterday is the latest album by Rick, and that's another song for you there on Rockline. I'm Bob Coburn. Your calls for Rick are toll-free at 1-800-344-ROCK. 2 lines open right now. Take advantage of it. Las Vegas, Nevada, it's Alan. Hi, Alan.
Hi, how you doing?
Pretty good.
Hi,
how are you, Alan? Hi, Alan.
Doing fine. All right, Rick, I got a question for you. I'm not a musician, but I have a good ear for music. I was wondering if there's a certain format or style that you like to write, you know, like when you're writing your songs and writing your music. Is there a certain instruments that you like to use a lot in your songs? Is there a certain way that you want your songs to sound like? Example, like when you play some of the older songs from the Cars, the certain rhythm, the certain beat, the certain instruments, you can tell, you know, who the artists are or who the artist is. I was just wondering if there's a certain way that you like to write your songs, just in general.
The process I usually do, I usually write on guitar because it's my main instrument. Sometimes I write on keyboards. I usually write songs at first just with a sort of a little mono cassette player so that I get a song first. And then it gets down to putting it on tape and arranging it a bit. I don't really think about it. I think that style generally comes from the individual that's doing it and the way they've decided to put things in place and the way they've decided to, you know, make a song sound. I don't know that it's anything you could, unless you were trying to copy, you know, someone else's song. I think if you're writing your own songs, then basically that's just the way you are. That's the way you think things should be, and it just sort of comes out that way. So I don't really, you know, to recap, I mean, I don't think about, you know, oh, this one's going to be I have to write a pop song, and then I'm going to write, you know, one of these other kinds of songs. They just all come out in a great big sort of blur, and then I just kind of select the ones that I like.
I can see what Alan's saying, because each individual will have a range. I mean, we all have a range in our lives of what we do, what we are capable of, what we sound like on down the line. Do you ever try to step out of that? Of, you know, I don't want to do this. So I'm going to write something on a different instrument to try to sound.
I think I do, but I don't know if I do. I've said this in some interviews where I think maybe I write 6 different songs. You know, of all the hundreds that are there. You know, I think you think as an artist that you're making a drastic change. Sometimes when you're writing a song, you know, you might think, oh, this is really different from me. You know, but then years later it's the same.
Funny how that works. That would be the range that I spoke of there. We'll take another from South Bend, Indiana this time. Joe, you're in Rockline with Ric Ocasek.
Hey, hi, Rick.
How you doing, Joe?
In this day and age, with such a beautiful wife and marriage, how do you keep it together? I mean, with everything, I mean, being popular and with everything that you have going on, it's got to be tough for you.
Yeah, it could be tough. I think, you know, my marriage now is a great one. I think mostly because we had an understanding going in that was kind of going to be the way our lives are, because she's a celebrity as well. And I think we just had an understanding that we weren't going to pretend we're celebrities while we're a married couple. And we also have a very good communication between each other. I think one of the things is probably, you know, not having to be on the road for 6 and 8 months a year. You know, not having a long-distance relationship, not having a relationship by phone, where people can sort of grow apart and learn different things away from each other. So it's a bit of an effort, and it's just kind of like trying to make sure that we're sort of always including each other in what we're doing.
That, to me, is the definition of success right there, is a good personal relationship, a strong family foundation, and you build on that, and you include each other in each other's lives. That's the way it works. Joe, thanks for being on. And welcome back to Rockline, an evening with Ric Ocasek. Oh, you've written some great songs over the years, Rick. Belleville, New Jersey, and it's Joe. Hey, Joe.
Rick, when you play live in concert, do you enjoy audience interaction, or do you prefer to play straight through song after song?
I guess I prefer to kind of, I mean, I certainly don't mind interaction. I don't usually talk to the audience much. I always had this philosophy that I didn't want to try to teach the audience how to react to music. I would rather them, like, do what they want. I would rather just play the stuff and then let them sort of react however they wanted to without prodding them. I never wanted to prod the audience. People probably took that as being sort of cold or aloof. Maybe it was in a sense, but the way I felt about it was, for me, it was more philosophical. It was more like, you don't have to tell them to put their hands together. You don't have to tell them to, you know, they have brains. You know, they can do what they want, you know. So I was hoping for that.
So no sporting event flashing sign that says, make some noise. You don't need that, huh? Just let them do what they want. And, of course, you mentioned earlier that Cars DVD should be out sometime next year, and we'll get to see you performing live on that with the Cars. Jim is in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and we welcome him to Rockline. Hi, Jim.
Hello.
Hey.
Hi, Jim.
Nice to be on your show. Hello, Rick.
Yep, how are you?
Great. One quick question. I was just wondering did the Cars disband, or did they just disintegrate?
That's a good one.
I like the word choices there.
I think they sort of, I think they did a little both. I think there came a point in time when we disbanded, and then I think it sort of disintegrated over a long period of time. I mean, that's the easy way to put it, but that's kind of what happened.
There is some talk that members of the Cars may go back out on tour, and there is talk that if that happens, you will not be involved. Is that the case?
Yeah, that is the case. Yeah. I mean, I have sort of a lot of other commitments, and I sort of probably wouldn't, I mean, I won't be going out on a sort of a Cars tour, no.
But it's okay with you if they go?
Well, sure.
Well, sure, even if they're singing songs that you've written and someone else is singing.
Well, you know, you have to make your own judgment on that.
All right.
I don't know.
We'll let that one lie there then. I know you don't like to pick favorites on albums, and I read that the 11 that you included on the album are the 11 that were your most favorite of the 30 that you wrote. But I can pick favorites on the album. I love the song that you end the album with, and we're going to play that right now. It Gets Crazy by Ric Ocasek on Rockline. It gets crazy. It sure does sometimes. Nexterday is the name of the brand new CD from Ric Ocasek. Bob Coburn, and our next caller is in Columbus, Ohio. Jay, you're on Rockline with Rick.
Hey, good evening, gentlemen.
Hello.
Hi, Jay. How you doing?
Hey, fear not. Here in Columbus, our treatment of elephants has greatly improved.
That's good to know.
I've got two quick questions for you. With all that success, what's left? What do you still want to accomplish?
Oh, gee, I don't... I want to accomplish as much as I can. I want to always be plugged into music, hopefully, you know, things that are brand new. I want to write a book, a couple books. I want to do some more artwork. You know, all the things that I've always wanted to do are the same things. To me, they're all just, you know, I'm just extending it. It's like if I do an album, I feel like it's another chapter in the book. I don't feel like I ever, I think I always keep something out there that I haven't accomplished, or, you know, I try to keep a dream alive. I try to keep one dream that won't come true so I can have something to always kind of go for. But I don't actually think of them as accomplishments, though.
Anything else on your mind tonight, Jay?
Yeah, I was looking at the website, ricocasek.com, and I was wondering if there'd ever be a gallery for the artwork.
I've done a couple of little gallery shows. I heard there's a great gallery in Columbus, actually, oddly enough, from one of my sons. I wished I had the name of it. You probably know it. I think it's the most adventurous gallery in the city.
Elephantville, I believe, is the name of it.
Yeah, right. Well, maybe. But, you know, I would like to do that, too.
Well, looking at your work, and obviously it's condensed and it's on the internet and this and that, but some of it's just beautiful, and the colors are vivid, and the work's imaginative and spectacular, and I'd like to see it. I know that. We have to take a time out. We're not done. We're coming back with Ric Ocasek. Come back with us. Please don't let me down. Take us to break.